welcome to the first episode of Tomboi Talks. My name is K.Short, the host of Tomboi Talks and also the creator of Tomboi International with this YouTube channel, Tomboi TV. And the purpose of these videos is to share our knowledge and stories with each other in an effort to create community and a network amongst tomboys and particularly tomboys of color. What a tomboy means to me and the purpose of this platform is anyone that falls on the spectrum as a masculine of center, queer, trans person of color. The intention is to inspire and motivate the next generation of tomboys to be true to themselves and to go after their dreams. Thanks for watching, and here's me and Dee getting to know each other.
All right, let's see if this is working. Cool. Anyways, first off, what is the name that you want to go by, and what are your pronouns so to make sure that we're on the same page?
My name is Deanna. Everyone personally that knows me, everybody calls me Dee. My pronoun is she, her, but everybody knows me as Dee, go by Dee, unless it's like a professional setting. People know me as Deanna, but even then, like after we build a relationship, it's Dee.
Yeah, dope. That's so funny. I feel like it's the same way with me. I'll tell people like, tell my dentist my name is Kathleen, but everybody else, like, my name is K.Short. You know what I mean? And
yeah.
It's just interesting that we have, like, I don't know, like this weird dual alter ego personality.
Yeah.
Do you feel the same about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, absolutely. Like, even my family, like, they call me Dee. Like, rarely anybody is like, Deanna. It's like, everybody calls me Dee. So, it's cool. It's perfectly fine.
When you got in trouble when you were younger, did they call you by Deanna or did they call you by Dee?
It's Deanna, and then I have a brother who is named Dion, and so sometimes like my mom is yelling for Dion, but she's really yelling for me. So, yeah.
I don't have any siblings, so I can only imagine like my mom calling and like one shows up and she looks at you like, that's not you.
What are you doing here? Yeah. Yeah. And like I used to go by Baby D until like I got like a little bit older and I was like, I need to grow up. So like I remember like seeing my name in my mom's phone and it was like Baby D daughter, and I felt like I made it. I was like, oh my God, like my mom was calling me Baby D, like I finally made it. So
I love that. You're like all your friends can call you Baby D, but it's when your mom like honors you and then you call by, you're like, whoa, like this is what's up.
Yeah, like she acknowledged me and it was like Baby D daughter. Like, okay, mom, for sure. I think I'm gonna keep going by Baby D now.
There you go. I love that. Speaking of growing up with, you only have one brother?
I have an older brother on my mom's side, and then I'm the oldest sibling on my dad's side. So I have 3 other siblings on my dad's side. So I'm like pseudo the middle child. Just depends on which side I'm on at the time.
Yeah. Did you, was there anyone in the household with you, like a constant sibling that was there, or were you kind of just going back and forth?
I kind of grew up like an only child, only because my brother was so much older than me. It's like a 10-year difference. So at first it was like me and my brother, but like he ended up moving out like really early. So like my childhood, I grew up, it was like predominantly like me and my mom.
Yeah, no, that's real. I have the same thing. I have like 7 siblings, but they're all like 15 years older than me.
Oh, wow.
Like 15 to like 30 years older than me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I'm like down there. Like I was straight up like love baby. You know what I mean? Like way past everything. So like that's why it's kind of hard to explain that. I'm like, I have siblings, but I feel more like an only child than anything because ain't nobody showing me what to do, what to say, how to put my hair in a ponytail. I don't even think I put my hair in a ponytail till like 7th grade. I was like, I don't know how to do this. It is because I was playing basketball outside. I was like, I'm not allowed to have my hair flinging in people's faces. So I was like, yeah, so I definitely felt like more like an only child than anything. With you, like, who did you like turn to when you had questions about like important things or like just questions in general?
My friends, really. Like I said, like growing up, I grew up kind of like an only child and like middle school and like elementary and even like in high school. But I was always like really kind of popular and like I always had like a lot of friends. So luckily, like I had like my friends to kind of turn to. Because like my mom, I'm home by myself. My mom worked a lot. So like thankfully I had like a tight like knit community because I always had like a lot of friends growing up. So I wasn't completely alone, you know, so I had like my own like little community within my school or in the neighborhood.
Yeah. Yeah. Are you a fire sign?
I am a water sign.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
cool.
I am a sensitive Cancer. Yeah.
I was gonna guess that.
Yeah.
Let me just.
Yeah, yeah.
I can't hate that. My mom's a Cancer, so I'm like, can't hate Cancers, can't hate mom. You know what I mean? So.
So wait, what are you?
I'm an Aries.
An Aries. Okay, okay,
Yeah.
okay, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
It
Right
doesn't
on.
it doesn't help being an only child and like being in the beginning of like the zodiac and like just like growing up is hard for me to do. I just like absolutely refuse to grow up, you know? And I'm like, I'm not about this life.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I feel like so when harder things started happening in life, or even like just more personal, intimate things started happening in life, when like when sex started coming into the play, or like relationships and stuff, like were you still turning to your friends about that?
No, I like what's funny is that like I like internalized a lot of things and dealt with like a lot of things on my own, just because like I felt like a lot of my friends were like very open with talking about certain things. And I think because like I was trying to figure myself out and I had like a lot of like insecurities. So I would like learn things from them based on like their conversations and watching them. And it wasn't until like I kind of gained more of a sense of myself that I became like a little bit more comfortable like coming out. Like I was even afraid to like really come out, even though a lot of other people like kind of knew, but it's just because of like how I felt about myself at the time. So it wasn't until like I got like a little bit older that like I was able to even like vocalize and like initiate certain conversations, just because it was like just a lot of internal things with me. Like I had the friends there, I had people there. It's just that like how I felt about myself and a lot of shame that I had within myself, that like it took a while for me to actually be comfortable and like start having these conversations. You know, I remember like even when like I like came out, like, and I thought it was like a big deal, and people were like, okay, like, you know what I mean? Like, you know, it wasn't really a big deal. And I'm like, damn, like I went through all of this stuff, like mentally and emotionally, that like I probably didn't even have to, because like my friends loved me anyway, or like some people already knew. And like that was just a very, very small part of me, that like here I am like thinking and overthinking, and the whole time I had like this support system.
Yeah, that's crazy. So who was the first person you came out to?
It was weird because like in like high school, like I had like girlfriends, and like I had like girls that like liked me, and so like people already knew. So like by the time that like I actually like had like certain conversations, it was just like, okay, you know. I remember somebody wrote me like a note in class, like a letter, and it was like, hey, like, and they kind of came out to me. And then like I felt like I was like the gatekeeper of like the queer people in like my class, because like teachers knew, friends knew, and like people just felt comfortable with me because I was just so open about it. So it's like very rare that I actually like have to sit down and like have a conversation, just because like just people already just kind of knew, you know. So it was just like me. Like I've always kind of been like a tomboy. I've always like dressed the way that I dress. Always had like wearing the braids, you know, like, so people kind of knew. I just felt like I had to have like a formal conversation with like my really close friends, and that's why it was like, okay, girl, like, duh, you know. So a lot of it was just like mental, like me being in my own way, and me like being afraid for whatever reason, just overthinking, you know. But people just always kind of knew, probably even before I knew. It was just like they were just waiting for me to like stop being a punk ass and just like say it.
Yeah. So how old were you when you feel like you officially came out?
I was in high school, so I was like probably like 14, 15. Yeah, like ninth grade. So whatever age, like 14, 15. Yeah.
That's cool. I feel like I had the opposite effect, or like opposite experience, similar but opposite. I came out like in middle school, but like my best friend outed me, and I wasn't like, I don't like, we're 12 years old, right? So I'm like, I think I like girls. I mean, like, I know that I like girls, but like, what does gay mean? So it was just like new vocabulary. So my friend just jumped on it real quick. I was like, excuse me, but I feel like I got kind of like shoved out the closet so everybody else could come out. I was like, I think I was the most obvious person, like same, like straight up tomboy, like same, you know, and but it's like we need to put someone out there. So who's the most obvious so the rest of us can come out. So I feel like once I came out or was out, like everyone else started coming out. I was like, what the hell just happened? I was like, what?
Right.
I was like not even here to process what's going on, you know? But it was hard because like when I came out, obviously I was the first, so I got a lot of that backlash of like people not jiving with it. Like we're in middle school, right? Like what is a 12-year-old doing, you know? But yeah, I just kind of felt like a little isolated in that way. But then like when high school came or like even 8th grade came, like people started coming out. I was like, y'all was just giving me shit last year. Like, what was that about?
Now it's okay. Yeah.
So it's interesting, but it's interesting because like there always has to be someone who does it first, you know, even if it's just like in that cohort, you know, and it's just within that time period. So I feel like it's interesting, like just over the course of time and thinking about like humanity in general, like there just always has to be someone who does it first within, even if you think just a generation. Like I wonder who was considered Michael Jordan back then. It wasn't basketball, but maybe it was. Like there's gladiators, right? There had to have been someone who defeated or did this great big, you know, accomplishment just to see that others can do it. You know?
Right.
Really interesting.
Yeah.
So when
shout out to us for being the trailblazers, like within our crew at first.
It's not easy. I definitely, for some people, like it's not easy because you know you get both sides of the coin. You know, you never know how people are gonna react but it's like then you become that person who's like, oh yeah, like I have a really good friend. You know, whether it's D or whether it's K, they're like, that's my good friend. So kind of like depending on how we are and like how sure we are of ourselves and like, I don't know, comfortable in our own skin. It's also kind of like that's their first impression of what, you know, a queer kid or a gay kid is like. And every queer person they meet after us, and I'm like, right, going back 10, 15 years for us, you know, it's like sets the trajectory of their first impression. You know what I mean? Like if you meet, if your first impression of a gay person is like mean and harsh and like whatever, right? Like all in your face, they probably will think all of us are like that.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So
exactly.
Especially if we're younger, you know, and we're the first ones trailblazing that. I think, you know, kudos for us. I would like to think that we put a positive impression for everyone else that they met afterwards. And now it's like we just out here.
Yeah.
You know.
And then it's like it's especially if they know us and it's like you already know me, you already know who I am, you know what I'm about. Like my sexuality is just like a very, very small part of who I am. You know, so it's like by the time they do find out or they did find out, it's like, you know, like she's still like a dope friend or she's still like an honor roll student or she's still like a genuinely good person. And that's like the misconception that like I think that like a lot of people have. Like our sexuality is just like a very, very small part of like a person in whole, and that's what people like fail to realize, especially like back then. Like we're talking about like high school, middle school. I feel like the community is a lot more acceptable. The society we have a long way to go, but it's a lot more acceptable now than it was like when I was in like high school or like we were in high school and middle school. Like it was slightly different, you know. Like now it's okay for like kids to like come out and embrace like their sexuality, whereas back then it was still kind of like taboo, or people assume that like, oh, you know, if you're a gay girl, like you like all girls. Like, no, I'm actually kind of offended that you think that like I'm attracted to you know. But that's like something that like, you know, people like dealt with. That's what they assumed. And I think that like, you know, once people get to know the person, then they find out that like, okay, like this person is queer. Like that's just a very, very small part of the person as whole, you know?
Yeah. Speaking of our queerness, and you coming out, did you find yourself when you came out and seeing like the rainbow or anything, did you find yourself like really owning that and being like give me all the rainbows, you know, like just a baby queer, and you're like, I want all of this, and like to show people who I am?
No, I was actually like the opposite. Like even till now, like I'm not all about like, I don't have like rainbow this and rainbow that, because I don't want, like I said, like my sexuality to like be the definition of who I am. You know, like there's so many other parts about me that I don't want like the very first initial thing about me to be like, oh, like my sexuality, or like, you know, I don't want people approaching me just because they know that like I'm a part of the community. So like I've never been about like, oh, let me get a rainbow belt and let me put a rainbow flag in like my rear view mirror. Like I've never been like that. It's like I want people to like get to know me. I want it to be genuine. I want it to be authentic. And then like if you know, like I never wanted that to like define me. You know, it's just like, you know, it's kind of like a very attractive like woman, like she's so used to being approached because of like her looks that like nobody ever wants to like get to know her, or they automatically assume that like she's stuck up or she's arrogant just because she's pretty. She's like, I'm insecure, or I'm an architect, or like there's so many other parts of you. So like I've never been like the rainbow. I've never been like, I wanted to flash and wanted it to be known that like I'm queer. Like I felt like my persona was already kind of obvious, especially because like I've always been kind of like masculine, even at a young age, you know. So it's like I don't want to draw any more attention to it than what it already is, you know.
Absolutely. Well, I can't say that's the same for me. At least in the beginning, 12 years old, I'm like, give it all to me. But I definitely got to the point where like, because I remember going to Pride at 12 or 13, and I was like, what the heck did I just get myself into? You know? But like, I was just like, whoa. But I think it got to the point where I was just like, okay, like, this is like all that queer folks are about, at least what I was experiencing. And I was getting frustrated because I was just like, yo, like we're so much more than that, you know? And so I found myself over the years was like kind of straying away from it, you know? Like I was like, I stopped going to Pride, you know, mid high school, and I stopped, you know, just attending all those events, you know, because there came a certain like that's all that we are type of thing. And maybe that was just my perception, at least in where I grew up. And I was like, but you like also do so much more than that. Can we talk about anything else besides queerness right now? You know? So I do think the kids nowadays, or the younger folks nowadays, it's like they're getting to that point where like they really could just like be who they are. And if it's just there, it's there. And if, you know, like, you don't, you don't, and that's like a journey on their own, you know? So do you feel that like, where do you feel like we're at, like as a queer community in general?
I think that like as a whole, we've kind of like moved past the whole like the rainbow and like our sexuality being the center of like who we are, you know, because it's like we're doing so much more, you know, like we're on TV now, you know, we're actors, we're actresses, we're business people, we're doing a lot of great things. Whereas I think initially before, especially when we were coming up, like we kind of had the rainbow and we had Pride because like that was our safe haven. We really like, you know, I remember like going to like certain clubs, and only certain clubs, because like that was the one space that we had to be safe. So it was kind of like a badge of honor, you know, to like wave your flag or like wear your belt, because we didn't have any safe spaces. But I think that like as society is growing and like even us like maturing, it's like there's so much more to it. So I don't think that like now we just have to just stick to like one side of like being able to identify, you know. I think that like, hey, this is who we are, this is the lifestyle we live, but like there's so much more to us than that. And I think that it's important for us to like push different narratives about ourselves too, like hey, like I'm queer, but like I'm also an actor, or I'm also a writer, and I'm also a teacher, and I also have a family. Like, that's just a very, very small part of who I am, which ultimately shouldn't even matter to most people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I just didn't want to be like strictly identified as, hey, Deanna as the girl that like likes girls, or, you know, Deanna the queer, Deanna the stud. Like, there's so much more to me than just my sexuality, you know?
Absolutely, absolutely. Speaking of that, let's kind of like reverse a little bit, thinking about your younger self and who you are today,
Mm-hmm.
and thinking in terms of coming into your own. You know what I mean? How did you have like any outlets growing up and trying to understand who you are? Did you have any, I don't know, I guess I say that because like for me it was journaling, you know, like if I didn't have journaling, I'd have no recollection of like what this being is experiencing on this earth, you know? So what,
Yeah.
did you have an outlet growing up, and like what really was like an anchor for you in learning and figuring out and discovering who you are growing up until now?
I had, like I said, like I had a lot of different friends from like different walks of life.
Yeah.
Like I had a friend that like did introduce me to like a lot of like the queer underground parties and like certain clubs and like certain parties and that we can go to that were like really underground. So I was exposed to a lot of that, but I also didn't really fit in with a lot of what was going on then, you know, but I also played basketball, you know. I also I used to want to like be a musician, so like I hung out with like a lot of musicians as well. So like I was fortunate enough to like have a lot of different friends from a different parts of like walks of life. So I was
Mm-hmm.
able to, like, being in these circles, I was able to kind of just figure out what it is that I liked and what it is I didn't like, and like how I wanted to like identify myself. And like even beyond like my sexuality, like I dealt with like a lot of like insecurities and questioning myself. And it took me to like really just go out and be around different people to realize like, hey, like it's okay to not completely fit in, you know. It's okay to like, you know, I used to think that like I was like a popular loner because like I knew a lot of people, I hung out with a lot of people, but like I still felt like I always didn't belong. And it's okay to like not always having to like fit yourself in like a box and fit yourself into, you know, okay, you're hanging out with like these studs, but like I don't completely feel like I fit in with them. And it's okay to like have your individuality amongst like being part of like certain crews. So a lot of it was just me being able to hang out with different people and figuring out who I am, and then like sitting with myself and asking myself like who are you? Like what do you like? Like what is it that like, you know, like you like to do? Like not your friends and not your crew. And it took like a lot of soul searching and transparency and being honest with myself and in figuring that out, you know. And took a lot of dark, lonely nights and, you know, and questioning myself. But like now, of course, I'm an adult, you know, and I have a better sense of myself. But like growing up, it was just like hanging out with different people, trying to figure out like who I connect with more. And sometimes it's okay to like not fit in, you know, and still be yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I resonate with that a lot because I feel also like a popular loner, you know, and it's like, I guess I just want to know, like, how have you maneuvered through that? Do you still feel that way, or have you found a way to not feel so alone over the course of your life?
Like I have my moments, but like overall, like I know who I am. A few years ago, some things happened and like I had to like move to like Palm Springs, and I was out there. I didn't know anybody. I literally like had to start all over. It was just me and like my younger siblings, and I freaking hated it at first. But that time, like I'm so thankful for it because it like forced me to like really get to know myself. It was like I was doing things. I took up chess, and it was like I would have never learned that hanging out at the clubs all the time with my friends. Like sometimes it's like I realized like, damn, like I really don't want to go and party every single weekend. So it really forced me to like hang out with myself and be with myself and realize like what exactly it is that I like to do. you know. And I think that that's like important for people. Like it's great to like have friends and have a sense of community, but like also like spending that time alone, and I always call it facing your inner ugly, and like really being honest with yourself and figuring out like what is it that you like to do, not like that you feel drawn because your friends like, or you know, like coming up in when I first started like partying, it was like hanging out with my queer friends. It was like everything was like we always had to be around other queers and always had to go to gay clubs and always, and then it's like, what's wrong with like just going to like a regular club, you know, you know, because like I got along with like everyone, and it took like me being by myself and having that honest conversation, like, hey, like it's okay to not just hang out with queers. It's okay to just do different things under outside of like the status quo of what like, oh, a queer person is supposed to do or a stud is supposed to do. Like, you know, if you want to go knit a sweater, like it might not fit the status quo, but like if that's what you want to do, then like it's okay, like go do it.
Yeah. I feel like we're gonna have to play a game of chess. I was in chess club in the 5th grade and have actually like, picked up on it when I moved out to San Diego. So me and my partner have a chess game, and like we play every time we get into a disagreement. I was like, I'm just gonna beat you at chess, and then here we are.
Oh man, that's awesome. Yeah, my younger brother actually like taught me how to play chess. Like my younger brother was like in 8th or 9th grade, and he's a genius. And like he sat down and he taught me how to play chess, and I've yet to be able to beat him. But
well, maybe I don't want to play you then, because
but like, you know, and that's something that like I took up within like the last few years, you know what I mean? And me like 10 years ago, I would have never thought about like playing chess, but it's like little things like that, like, you know, just trying to figure out things that I like.
Yeah. I mean, listening to your story so far, it sounds like not that it was easy, but it sounds like there was a lot of figuring out to do, you know, and it sounds like you've taken a positive approach to it. But I'm curious about like the harder times, you know, if there's any time where, you know, mentally it was difficult for you, like, and how did you manage your mental health through all this whole process?
Yeah. Oh, like, no, it wasn't easy by a long shot.
You're like, wait a second.
Like I said, that like in high school, like people knew, like I even had like girlfriends. I remember getting like some flowers and getting like a letter from like this girl in high school. And I remember like my mom finding it, and like my mom, like she freaked out, you know. She was not with it at all. Like she like threatened to make me go live with my dad. She's like, this isn't gonna go down in like my household. So I think that like a lot of like my like some of my insecurity came from that, and like a lot of shame came from that, because it was like, here I am at school and like people love me and like teachers know and like I'm embraced, but then at home it was like I kind of had to hide who I am, which was bizarre, because it was like mom, like I wear jerseys and headbands and French braids, like, you know, but now looking back, I think more so she was more afraid of like how society would like take me, and is maybe in her own way she was trying to like protect me, you know. So like I dealt with like a lot of like mental issues then, because like I couldn't even come home and really be who I was. I had to hide certain things, like you know, girls couldn't really call the house like that, you know. Like she really blew a lid when like she found that letter and she found those roses, you know. But like now that like I'm an adult, like she's fine with it. Like she's met girlfriends, she just wants me to be happy. But then that was like a very like sensitive time, like growing up. Like here I am in like high school, and I'm afraid to be who I am when like I go home. So like that was like a very, very, very difficult time, you know, like coming up, because on one end I'm accepted and I'm loved, but then like going home and not being able to, like, home's supposed to be your safe haven, you know, and like having to like hide who you are, like not being able to like have certain conversations with like my mom. And like I said, I grew up as the only child, so it was just me and my mom in the home, you know, and my mom was like really strict, and you know, she didn't take any shit when it came to certain things. So like that was like a lot to deal with, and that like kind of felt like played into like a lot of insecurities that I had, and like questioning myself. Like I used to try to pray my own gay away. I used to like, you know, try to force myself to like be attracted to guys or like have a boyfriend, and it just, I wasn't happy. It wasn't me. So it took me getting older and really just embracing who I am to be like, hey, like this is who I am, and this is what it's gonna be. Like I tried to pray it away. I tried to like wash it off, like, but I couldn't. And I think that like because of how my mom dealt with it, it kind of like slowed up my development with me embracing like who I am. Like now I'm great with it, but like growing up, my mom, she wasn't having that.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that she's gotten to that point. I think that's the thing about parents, especially during that time. You know, it's like I think it's like they're like, you are already a person of color. You know what I mean? You're already black. You're already brown. You're also a girl. Now you're over here a tomboy, and now you're over here kid. You know what I mean? They're like, yo, we can only take so much in a lifetime. You really putting yourself out there, and all those things you can't control. You know what I mean? Like, so I feel like that one might be the one that they may feel like that's the one that you can kind of control and pray it away or get it out of here. But I don't know. I feel like it's just so interesting. I'm curious of how parents are raising their queer kids now. You know, like what does that conversation look like?
Right.
Obviously it's still a thing for anybody, but like I feel like it's just different now because they're able to have different representations from media and just whatever's been out there, you know?
Right. And I think that like as queers, like that is the most difficult part of when it comes to coming out and embracing our sexuality. Is like, I feel like we can deal with society, you know, like we can deal with like people at work, we can deal when we walk outside, but like it's heartbreaking and it's difficult. Like when you come home and your family treats you different or like they disown you, you know, like I can deal with, you know, like I can deal with the outside world, but like when you come home and you don't have that support and you're looked down on or you're treated differently, that hurts. You know what I mean? And that's where like a lot of like mental issues come from. And, you know, and when, you know, people consider suicide or go into depression, a lot of it comes from our family. You know, like a lot of people have old-fashioned grandparents or old-fashioned families, and especially depending on, you know, where your parents are from and in their culture. I feel like that's the difficult part, you know, and that's why we seek out community within our friends, or, you know, that's why we embrace, you know, the pride culture and go on the pride and go into these certain clubs, because you have people that accept you and love you for who you are. Because when you go home, you're looked frowned upon. And it doesn't matter if you can be a straight A student, you can be a genius, but because you like or you love who you love, like all of that goes out the window. And that's damaging for like a teenager. That's damaging even for a young adult. You know what I mean? Like I'm just now to the point to where it's like I'm embracing like all of me and who I am. But growing up, it was difficult because of how my mom is. And thank God I had friends that like supported me and loved me, because when I went home, it wasn't always that same support and always that same love, you know?
Yeah. At what age did she start coming around?
It was, I was already like an adult. I had like gotten into some trouble when I was like 19. And like because of like the trouble that I got into, like my girlfriend at the time was also there to like kind of help me out. And that's kind of like when like my mom like met like my girlfriend at the time, and it was like, oh shit, like here I am, I'm in like all this trouble, and then this is like the first meeting that like my mom like meets like my real girlfriend. And she ended up like loving her and embracing it. And I, maybe because I was an adult already, so she realized she really couldn't do anything about it. But like I was probably already like 19, maybe 20 at the time, somewhere between like 18 and like 20, but I was already like an adult, so she almost kind of had no choice. And then too, she seen that like I was happy. And like now my mom was like, I just want you to be happy. I just want you to be with somebody that's good to you and like good for you. And it's like, damn, like where were you, this person 15 years ago, you know?
Yeah. I think that's the one thing that like I've learned growing up is like our parents are just humans too.
Right.
And it's like they've have their own biases and they have their own perspectives and stuff, and to raise a smaller human being into this world, like, you know, I feel like a lot of times they just want what's best for us. So I don't know, I think I've gotten to that point where I was like, yo, like I look at my parents like, you got some shit that you need to work through, you know, like you hurting, you know, and it's like, but they just never had that space or opportunity to really have those conversations or even open up, you know? So it's like, it's cool, like becoming an adult and seeing your parents as like, would I really chill with them? If you know what I mean? If you weren't my parents, would I actually like who you are? I love my parents, but being able to just be critical about the, you know, the humans that we're surrounding ourselves with, and kind of being like, yo, like that's their own past, that's their story, and they're projecting that onto me, and being able to take that with a grain of salt. And kind of try to, you know, delve into that with them. Have you ever had the courage to have those conversations with them about like the things maybe of their own biases, or just like how, you know, giving them feedback or giving them an opportunity to grow?
Not directly.
Yeah.
Not directly, because like I feel like especially like with my mom, like I don't want to like offend her or it turns into something else, you know. Like I just kind of like learned just how to deal with my mom, and like you know, like how to approach things, and like you said, like realizing that like, hey, our parents are like, they're people and they're just trying to figure this out too. So like I've kind of just learned that like, hey, like this is my mom, this is who she is, this is how she is, she isn't going to change. So the best thing for me to like nurture our relationship is just kind of just accept like this is how she is, and just learning like how to deal with her. But like no, I never like sat down and like had a conversation and like be like, hey, when you did this hurt, or you know, maybe you should approach things a certain way, like because it'll turn into something way bigger than what it has to be. I just learned to just learn how to deal with her.
Yeah. Well, now looking back on it and looking at all you've gone through, what advice would you give your younger self?
To embrace who you are, and to be who you are, and to not second guess yourself, because it's power in that. And you will be surprised at like how many people are watching and look up to you and respect you for being who you are, and like do not like allow society to like mold who you think you are, because you're never going to be happy if you are weird, or if you're different, or you don't always like fit in. Like embrace that, and like put your happiness and put your individuality first, because I wasted like a lot of time trying to like mold myself and be who I thought that like I should be, or act like how I thought I should act, and I was freaking miserable. Like, so if I can tell my younger self, is like embrace who you are. And because there's people that are watching, there's people that look up to you, there's people that admire you, and you're never going to be happy if you're not like living your truth. And that's whatever it is, whether it's your sexuality, whether it's like what your interests are, whether it's your hobbies, like embrace it and don't second guess yourself, like, because your intuition is going to tell you, you know. So like be who you are. I know it sounds cheesy, but like be who you are and stand in your truth, and like don't second guess yourself. And the people that are for you are going to be for you, and the people that like don't like it, like they're not meant to be in your life.
Hey y'all, I hope you enjoyed that video of our first episode of Tomboi Talks with Dee. Again, these videos are here to inspire and motivate the next generation of tomboys, so if you are a positive leader in our community, please reach out, or if you know one, leave them in the comments below. And overall, make sure to subscribe to our channel. If you have any topics that you want us to talk about, feel free to reach me at K.Short on Instagram, and I hope to talk to you soon. Bye now.